Hey, you guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness, the weekly podcast devoted to all things spirituality and self-improvement. I am so excited that you're here with us today because we have a very special guest. Today we have with us Dr. Simone Alicia, who is the self-esteem doctor, and she is here today to talk to us about how our life purpose kind of plays a role for us and maybe how self-esteem plays a role in that life purpose. And I'm very excited because I know that many of you are out there going, why am I here? Why do I have to struggle through this life? And so hopefully we can get a little bit more clarity today. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I am so excited to talk about purpose and get to know everybody and really just expand this conversation to new levels.
I'm very excited that you're here because I think this is such an important topic, especially right now. We know the last few years have been so rough for people. It's been difficult. And I think COVID has taught a lot of people that maybe where they are in life is not where they want to be. And they've found that they've become unhappy with, the normal everyday life. And I think a big part of breaking through that is working on self-esteem. I think that's so super important.
100%, 100%. I think that is the fundamental element of so many things, of everything in life. So when we talk about purpose or where I belong or what should I be doing or what does my life look like, I found it pretty almost impossible to talk about those things without taking that element of self-esteem into consideration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get into this work of, helping people to build their self-esteem? Because I want to say, first and foremost, I think it's very important. It's huge, and this should be a part of the educational system. How did you get started with that?
You are speaking my language. Like, when you said educational system, I'm like, okay, hold on, let's go there. But we know that's another conversation in of itself. But truthfully, it is such a fundamental piece. And the way I've got myself to it is a little bit unusual. So I like sharing the story mostly because, well, it's the story. And also, I think it can inspire people that you just don't know where your path is taking you. It looks like this way, and then plot twist, it's that way, and then it's this way. So I actually was teaching elementary school at one point in life. I am incarnated here on this planet to be a teacher. Like, that has been evident since like 5 years old. I was teaching my teddy bears. I lined them up on my bed and I was like pretending they were writing and I would teach whatever, whether it was math, science, nothing, life, whatever. So that I'm a teacher. So in real life, when I got older, I started to teach elementary school. And in that environment, I just saw so many little examples of people just not necessarily having the confidence or the worth or the value. And it was from the kids to the teachers to the parents. Two examples I always talk about, and one is when we're taking tests or preparing for tests, students are terrified and just automatically default to fear, which seems so natural because it's a test and everyone's kind of been trained to be nervous about tests. But when I start to train them the other way and say, hey, why don't we start to feel confident? Why don't we think about all the things we do know and how many days you have been at school, that you were paying attention and you have all these good grades? Like, let's lean on that. And they stopped being fearful. Then the parents would come and say, I don't think they're taking your class seriously. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, because there's a test coming up and she's not afraid. I'm like, what? Like, they were so trained that they had to be afraid. So I was like, we really got to work on this self-esteem, this confidence. Another instance in the classroom was when a little girl came up to me. She was 8 years old at the time. And she looks at me with the most like earnest look in her face and said, Miss Woodburn, that was my maiden name at the time. Miss Woodburn, am I fat? And I'm like, huh? What? Between like stuttering, I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream, I just didn't know how to feel. I was like, what are you talking? You're 8. Like, why do you even know this word?
Yeah.
And so I was like, someone's got to work on self-esteem. Now, here's the bigger plot twist. At the same time as teaching elementary school, I had also started, I was modeling through college and I kept modeling while I was teaching. And so I was blessed perhaps with a very naive view of what modeling was. I was just telling someone the other day on another podcast, like, I just was like, you're going to pay me to walk a straight line and wear clothes. Okay. I'll do it. Right. I just didn't take it as seriously as maybe, I didn't think of it as my last final profession. So anyway, I was very lighthearted about it. And backstage, I saw and heard the other girls back there just tearing themselves apart. I'm just ugly. I'm so fat. I can't do this. And I'm just like, walk the straight line, girl, make your money. What's going on? And then one day those two worlds collided. I had of the runway show and I hear the girls backstage. We finish the show and I'm just hearing them tearing themselves apart. We come off of the stage and there are a group of little girls. They had to be somewhere between like 8 to 11 or 12 years old. And those little girls are looking up all like doe-eyed, like just completely enamored, in love. And they're like, I want to be like them. And in my head, I was like,
Yeah.
no, you don't want to be like that. They just talk so badly about themselves backstage. Like they are not as confident as you think they are. Like you're 8 and you probably think you're fat. Like the kid in my I was just like, okay, these worlds are really like coming at me with this self-esteem and mindset thing. And it's beyond just looks and physicality and your beauty and your image. It's about so much deeper. Like we'll talk about today, your capability, your purpose, your mission, your why, your life. And so that is where the self-esteem doctor started to kind of percolate. And she was born several years after that with just more education, more studying, more trials and errors and failures along the way. And that has brought me to here. That was a short version, even though it sounded long.
Well, that's very interesting. And it's interesting that you said that, you know, you knew you were a teacher and you were born to be that. I teach high school in addition to doing the other things that I do too. I know we didn't get to talk about that earlier, but yeah, I teach high school too. So I get the whole, your mission is teaching that, like, if you weren't born with someone who knows you had to teach, like you don't get how strong that mission is. But I love that you hearing those things in the background, it clicked with you. Oh my gosh, like there's something we're missing.
Yes, yes. And I think it ties so well into the potential like confusion about purpose because when you think about it, okay, teacher, you teach in a classroom. And so, okay, I'll teach in a classroom. And so I did that because that's really all I knew. And then when I felt like there was just something else calling me, the truth is, and this might be true for many of you listening, I don't know what that thing was. It wasn't that I just like, oh, and now I will become a self-esteem coach because I didn't know what I'm like, I gotta help people, question mark. Like, this is where I'm going, question mark. Like, I don't know what the next step per se is, but I know I'm going to put my mindset, my energy, my heart, and some level of trust in a direction that seems to be heading in that way, on that path, because I knew my purpose was unfolding somewhere inside of me. And I think that's probably the first big bit of advice we can share with you today is you obviously we all want to step into the known. We all want to make moves with clarity and precision and know exactly what's coming. But sometimes that's just not how it unfolds, right? Sometimes that first step is just an appreciation and acceptance and awareness and acknowledgement that something is brewing. And then when we start pulling on that thread, it'll start to unfold if you follow it. And that's what actually happened for me. And even while it was unfolding, I remember people saying to me, what's a self-esteem doctor? I mean, with the full judgment too. Like, what's a self-esteem doctor? And I'm like, I literally remember once saying, I don't know. I'm still creating her. And then I was like all confident with it. In the back of my mind, I'm like, I really don't know yet. But I really knew I was building something and I was following something. And every day it continues to get clearer and clearer. Even today, decades later, I still continue to feel the clarity. I still continue to feel greater confidence. And I just keep walking in that. So that's step one sometimes is just, what is that calling in your heart? Even if you have no clue what's coming next, can you hear it? Can you feel it? Can you sense it? And if you don't have to make a move on it or take a step in any direction, can you just kind of be okay with the thought of it for a little while? Because I knew someone, quote unquote, had to start working on self-esteem. And then I realized that someone was me. And I just stayed with that for a little bit before I evolved into all of this. So
It's so, interesting because diving into the unknown and going after what you think is your purpose, that requires a lot of self-trust. And I think that self-trust and self-esteem in a lot of ways go hand in hand, because if you don't think you have the ability to do what you need to do, you kind of start to doubt yourself, like, oh, well, is that really my purpose? Because I don't think that I could do anything like that. How do you combat that?
such a good question. I really think that so much of it is programming, like this belief that we can't do something or it's not for us. It's actually a programmed response. And when I say program, I want to kind of back up and give you guys some insight that part of my training and what I bring to the table is something called neuro-linguistic programming. Many of you might be familiar with Tony Robbins. He is trained in NLP, which is what we call it. So we don't have to say that very long word again. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And it really is speaking the language of the mind in such a way that we program the mind that we could take better actions or, get to our outcomes that we desire. And what I've seen is that we have become so programmed to believe things that are actually, I don't think, are innate to us. Like if we go back to when you're a child and it's kind of like, I want to go over there. What do? We go over there. Like we don't like stop and be like, well, I wonder if I'm qualified to go over there. I wonder if I'm allowed to go over there. We're just like, over there is in my eye and I'm going, and like we head for it. Right. And I think over time we get programmed to have way more doubts than we do self-assuring thoughts or reassuring thoughts. So yeah, I think that self-trust is a very key element. And I think we've kind of talked ourselves out of that trust, when in fact, not very easy to do, but a very simple concept is that we could easily talk ourselves into that trust. And that takes practice and time. And that's part of what I love to bring to my coaching and to my talks is the understanding that this stuff takes practice. You don't just like, well, I woke up today, I doubted myself. And so that's my life. It's like, okay, no. I woke up today, I doubted myself. And so I started the process of reprogramming so that I could not doubt myself, so I could build that self-trust, build that self-esteem, and then therefore take greater actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's so important to do that too, because as you said, there's so many people that surround us who want to tell us we can't do something. Or, and I said, I'm going to write a book. And they're like, what? Why would you write a book? Or how are you going to do that? And still, I mean, now I have 2 books, but I still have people who just look at me like, the roll your eyes kind of, you know what I'm talking about. So you have more naysayers, I think, that surround you sometimes than you do people who will build you up. It's why you need to be your own inner cheerleader.
Oh, I agree with that so much. Okay, so I love what you said because in my more recent years, I have started to value even 2 things I've really started to value more, the people who are around me and my time. Like that has been, like, I guess you get a little, not that I'm getting that older, but as I get refineder.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Right?
I'm not old. I'm just more refined. Yes.
I'm refined. I'm not aging, I'm refining. Thank you very much. As I refine in this life process, I'm realizing, like, listen, time, I can negotiate anything. You could sell things and get money. You can do illegal things, legal things. You can do all manner of business to get things and money and whatnot, but you cannot get time back. So I've really started to value time. And with that time are the people that I spend it with, the people who are around me. And what I've almost realized without realizing that I was really working in this direction, was that I started to surround myself with people who are really, truly of like mind. And that doesn't mean you don't bump into the occasional person, but I find myself having conversation when people are saying, when people don't support you, and I'm like, huh? What do you mean people don't support you? Who are those people? I don't have those people. And obviously I know that they exist and it's real life here, but I have done a really good job just recently, in this long growing process of decades and decades, really started to value and pay attention to who's around me. So now I have a space and a crew of people, if you will, both family and friends, that if I walk into a room and say, I am about to erect a 19-story building, every single one of them will be like, you go, girl. When are we celebrating? Like, should I bring champagne? Do you need a builder? Like, I've got blueprints at my house. Like, I've got people who are going to show up. And I'm like, the more I actually acknowledge that in conversations like this, the more I'm really appreciating, like, oh my gosh, that is huge, because not all of us have that. And I have not always had that. So I'm just so thankful for that season where I can say I'm writing a book and they're like, girl, I thought you could have written 8 already. Like, you go, girl. And I'm like, So it's really cool to watch that growth and see how that also contributes potentially to that inner programming also, and how important that is for you to navigate that as best as you can. Right.
Yeah. It's why it's so important to work on yourself and your own self-esteem, because I feel like that kind of all rolls together. It's like when you go through those massive shifts like that, sometimes people shift away from you because you realize, okay, this person isn't for me, because if they're not supporting you and they're just constantly putting you down or doing this or that, they're not worth your time.
100%. Melissa, tell me what you think about this, because this thought pops in my mind and I want to know your thoughts on it. So I literally start to picture that the people around you are almost responding to who you are. So let me switch that around a little. I start to imagine that the more I stand in my light, the more I stand in who I truly am. And that means accepting myself. That means working on myself. That means celebrating myself. That means acknowledging things I do want to grow and change and taking steps. It really means just being aware of self and stepping into that fully. What I'm noticing is that the more I step into myself, and someone gave me a quote the other day, and let's see if I can get it here. The more that I am me, the easier everything gets. That was the quote from Laura Ora. And she said, and I'm like, wait, the more I'm like, my gosh, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that the more authentic I am with me, that when I start to interact with people, the interactions are better. People are understanding me a little bit better. I'm seeing that it's starting to really expand beyond just me. And I always used to say self-esteem begins with you, but it doesn't end there. And I'm starting to see like the hardcore facts of that every single moment. I'm like, man, the more I work on me, the more the world around me changes, the more people seem to be their better selves, because there's a version of me that's meant to interact with a version of you. And if I don't show up with my full version of me, then I don't get the full version of you. And then I think we have some chaos. But if I'm coming with the full version of Simone, which then opens the door for you to come with the full version of Melissa, I think the exchange is totally different. It's so much more expansive. And so, yes, I agree with you 100%. That work has to come from within first, but you're going to see that echo in every single person that's around you ultimately.
You want to get chills? Okay.
Yes.
So right before we started recording this podcast, I went live on TikTok to do a reading. And the message that I channeled that came out was being vulnerable is tough, but necessary. If you want to bless people with your gifts, then they have to see the true you.
Okay. I'm rocking back in my seat. I'm taking a deep breath. Give me a second. Yes.
The universe literally coming out twice with confirmation of you have to be who you were meant to be. Stop trying to be what you think everyone else wants you to be or should be or whatever.
And in fact, that effort that you think is going to make life easier because they're going to like you better actually backfires greatly and makes life so much more difficult, because not only are you not standing in your truth, you're trying to be someone that your soul is like not even familiar with, like what's going on here. And then people aren't receptive to it anyway because it's not even you.
Yeah.
So it's like a lose situation. And although initially it feels like it takes a lot of courage to really be you, the truth is it's more of a responsibility to be you, because that's when you have the greatest impact on the earth. That's when you have the greatest impact on others. And that's when you feel the most fulfilled and happy as an individual on this planet. So there's just so much, magic and science to really stepping into who you truly are and what it does for your mind, body, and soul. It is, my gosh, thank you for sharing that reading. Like I'm hearing your words echo in my brain right now. And I'm like, yes, this is the message. This is resonating. This is wow. Wow. I have to share this with you. I did another podcast this morning, which is actually where that quote came from. And my grandma came through, who's passed since 2017. She just like came right through in the podcast, like just like orbed on it. Just, okay, grandma. And I'm just
yeah.
I'm just like, I want in. I'm like, get on in here, girl. Like, and it's just the synergy and just feeling like just everything, just feeling this unity. That's what it all just kind of represented for me, was this unity here, me, you, beyond, the listeners, just galactically, divinely, spiritually, just universally. We're really connected, and the messaging is going to be the same and fluid in many ways on many days, because we're all really wanting a lot of the same things. We want happiness and joy, and we want like to enjoy this experience on the planet. And we've made it really difficult with some serious beliefs and limitations that are holding us back. And that's really what's the saddest part of an unfulfilled life, is that much of it was up to us to release and unleash who we always were meant to be, and do it so fearlessly. And I know there are obstacles to that, especially if you're younger. You got parents telling you can't do that. And if you're older, you got bosses and people trying to employ you that tell you can't be that and you can't say that. I definitely get that it's not necessarily a walk in the park, but there is a path and a way to tune in, which I hope we can give you guys that today. A way to really tune in to find the joy along the way, find the expansion in the challenges, find the setup to the apparent setback. I think that's Joel Osteen that says that, and really find like the playful way to just kind of skip on through this life, right? Jumping the hurdles as if you're an actual like track star. When you're a track, right? Perspective is everything, right? If I'm just walking along minding my business and there's a hurdle, it's like that's a bad thing. But if I'm a track star on a track where I know there are hurdles, I just build up momentum and I just leap over the hurdles. I practice leaping them, and then I leap them, then it's fun, and then I get an Olympic medal, right? Like
Yeah.
it's perspective. So I want us to change that perspective today and say, on my journey to finding my purpose, it is like running that hurdle race in a track meet. I expect the hurdles. These are not surprises and they don't have to be bad. They're part of the race. They're part of the skill set. So now I want to run this race, jump those hurdles and get to my destination with greater ease. And I think that's a perspective thing that we can help get to today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's all about learning and remembering how much personal power we have, because so many people fall into that victim mindset of, oh, this happened. And I was talking about this earlier on the reading too. Like, I got a flat tire over the weekend and I was like, like, here we go. But if it's easy to fall into the victim mindset, and instead I was like, okay, what are we going to do next? Okay, what am I going to do next? And when you realize that, no, you can't control everything that happens to you. What you can control is how you react to it and how you let it. For me, I always think every situation that happens to me, it's not good or bad. It's just a learning experience. And we're refining, right? It's helping us find who we are and our soul. So if we could get to the place where we could just understand that we don't necessarily have to assign good, bad, whatever to situations. And instead, it might have been something that happened to you you didn't want to happen.
100%.
But how are you going to react to it? And I think that's everything. Your personal power is everything. If you choose to use it or not and say, okay, I'm going to lay down and let the universe roll over me, or am I going to get up and fight back? What am I going to do?
Right. And that perspective really brings us back to NLP too, because, NLP talks about the pictures that we see in our minds. Like as we are thinking, it's not just a jumble of words that's in there. Our minds are actually seeing in pictures. And we actually have the power to shift some of those pictures around from what they first appeared to be. So if I'm holding this picture in my mind of like poor me, victim mentality, as you're mentioning, bad things always happen to me. You've got the story, you've got the program, you've got the picture, which then the little science here means if I've got the picture, I've also got the chemicals flowing in my body that match that picture, right? So that's stress and overwhelm. So here comes my body releasing adrenaline and cortisol and just matching the pictures. So there is power, like you said, in that personal power, being able to shift. Now, a little bit more practical, like what can I actually do? Shift those pictures. It's not just a matter of, let me make it up. Oh, I'm happy I have a flat tire. This must be such good news. Like, no, we're not talking about being fake, right? Like we swing to the other side when we tell people to be positive. We're like, oh, well, I'm so thankful for my... We're not telling you to pretend that you wanted a flat tire. What we're saying is this is an opportunity to reframe that picture and say, okay, this flat tire made me have to slow down for a second. And maybe I didn't go on the road when I wasn't supposed to be on the road. I can reframe that. And I can literally say, well, I'm lucky because when I'm not supposed to be somewhere, I bet your bottom dollar, I'm not going to be there. And timing is going to work for me. If I need to be slowed down, you better believe the universe is going to slow me down. I can reframe it just as easily because the truth is that we're making stories up in our head half the time anyway. I'm the unluckiest person in the world. That's kind of a made up story, right? So if we're going to do that, why don't we make up, you know what? I think that I am held back from places I'm not supposed to be right on time every time. That is an equally made up story, but one sends your body in a place of hopefulness and forward moving and allows more clarity, which then allows purpose and energy and self-esteem and self-worth and feeling worthy. That is allowed to grow and flourish in that environment, that mental environment, versus just labeling it as something negative and something bad. As you're mentioning, you don't have to label either good or bad. But if you do label it always bad, you're going to be running that program. And then you're going to put yourself in a habitual state of expecting bad, bad, bad. And if you don't mind me going even deeper, when you put yourself in a habitual state of expecting bad, you narrow your focus, kind of like back in when we were in the wild and we were being hunted or there's a wild animal out, you have to narrow your focus on what it is you're looking at. So if you're in fight or flight, everything bad happens to me. I got to be on alert. your stress hormones, your lower centers are just firing off. You're like ready to run for your life. So your focus is really narrow on all that is bad. And that's all you're going to see. So when someone tries to empower you or encourage you, you're going to be like, my life is terrible. And I need to stay focused. I need to stay focused on this terrible because my life is bad. You don't find purpose in there. There's nowhere for your brain to be like, and now let's look at the stars and let's look into my heart and let's find my purpose. Your body's like, girl, run for your life. Like bad things are happening to you. So you're not in a state to even be open to receiving greater bits of information or inspiration. So there are a lot of good reasons to not attach those labels of good or bad to things and to be, really grow attached to them as a state of life or a state of beingness for yourself. It's just very limiting and you can't flourish and evolve from there very easily at all.
Yeah, and our brains are naturally programmed, especially if we've been through trauma, to be in fight, flight, or freeze all the time. And so I think working on self-esteem is another way to get you out of that, because we literally are reprogramming the brain when you do those activities.
100%. So when you visualize, if you sit and I know we may hear about it all the time. So I'm going to jump in, assuming some of you are like, oh, here we go. We got to visualize again. We got to picture it and imagine. Wait, just stay with me for a second. I want to give you a little bit of what's actually happening here. When you are asked to visualize, it is really about back to the NLP stuff with the pictures you're keeping in your mind. You are now creating clearer pictures of what it is you want. The pictures kind of act as a target, if you will, or like a GPS that you're programming. When you say to me, hey, I want to go here, and you pick up your GPS, I'm like, okay, program where you want to go. And you say, I don't want to be angry anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's where we are now. We're already here. Where do you want to go? I don't want to be mad. Cool. We're still sitting here. Where do you want, we got to actually put in a destination, and the destination is not where you are, it's where you're going. So with the pictures in your mind, you have to start to have pictures that are representative of the destination. So if you've never been rich, but you want to be rich, you're going to have to program some image of wealth in the GPS, quote unquote, or in your brain. You have to have an image there because your brain has no idea what it's aiming for, what the target is, and where you're going. And when you do this, it's not just an activity like, oh, look, let's sit and picture things for no reason. This is actually some neurological changes that we're encouraging. We're encouraging the brain to fire and wire new neurons. We're encouraging your brain to start, can you create imagery of me as a wealthy person so this becomes possible? I can't have something in my brain that says this is impossible, it will never, ever happen, and then hit that target. I have to some degree, have my eye on the prize. What do I think it is that I want to achieve, and what does it look like? When you have that vision in your mind and then you couple it with elevated emotions. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Melissa, have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? Okay.
Yes.
My best friend right now. He doesn't know, but we're best friends. Okay. So when you elevate the feelings in your heart now and you feel the feelings of the excitement that imagery gets you, it's not just, okay, look at you hallucinating and pretending you have things you don't. It's way deeper than that. What you're doing is actually sending chemical signatures. You're sending signatures to the brain to say, wait a second, you see a picture of wealth and you're feeling excited about being wealthy. Wait a second. That's the formula. Seeing it and feeling it means it happened. That's what the deeper part of our brain says. It says, if you see it and you feel it, I'm recording it as an actual memory. Your brain doesn't know if you actually went out there and got the money and felt great, or you were sitting in a chair, broke as a joke, imagining money and feeling good. The brain records it as a memory. Once it's recorded as a memory, it's familiar. It's now a possibility. You're not now looking at the world like this is an impossible thing to attain. You're looking at the world like, wait a second, I have a sensation of what this could be like. I have a little experience with this. My brain now is feeling more confident because I have a picture of what that future could be. I have a picture of what that goal, that GPS program is. What is it that where I'm headed? And the more you do that, you are changing neurons in your brain. The more you do that, you are pumping chemicals to your body that are no longer in fight or flight, freeze, stress, cortisol, adrenaline, you're not pumping that anymore. You're switching over to more helpful, lighter states of being where you can be more heart-centered, you can be more creative, you can use those upper centers and start to think and recognize opportunities and feel the potentiality of what really is out there for you. And of course, your courage is going to go through the roof and you're going to feel like, wow, I can really do it. I believe in myself because I've seen it. Mentally, I've seen it as a real possibility, and it changes the game.
I think another thing to add to that with the spirituality part of this too is when you do that, so, we're composed of energy, right? Everyone's energy. And you have like lower vibrational energy, you have high vibrational energy. And when you're doing that work as well, you're raising your energetic vibration, which attracts a lot of things. But for me personally, what I know is I'm able to get more guidance from my guides in the universe when I'm vibrating at a higher frequency. And so you'll notice like intuitive hits, like some people may not even realize that that's guidance they're getting, but they may just think, oh, hey, you know what? I should go to the cafe, this cafe that I've never been to tomorrow. And they go there and suddenly they meet someone new who ends up being an important person in their life. You get those intuitive hits when you are like, if you're down here being a victim and all of that, you're often closed off. And so you can't get that guidance as clearly as you would. It's almost like tuning a TV channel, right? For those who are refined, if you remember the antenna and you have to like put foil on it and adjust it, it's the same thing. You're not going to get as clear a picture if you're vibrating at such a low frequency. So.
I love and adore every word you just said. It's somebody can I share this visual I give to my clients? Okay. So when I do some one-on-one coaching, I will try to paint this picture, and it's not like a very accurate, like these are the 3 stages, but it's just for a visual. So stay with me, right? So I tell people to imagine that you're looking at like 3 levels. Like there's underwater, like in deep, deep dark of the ocean. Then there's on land, and then there's in the air. I say, imagine that those are just 3 levels of vibration, right? High, middle, and low. This is not fully accurate, but just for a visual, right? So I said, imagine that what you want this high vibrational life. This is where, gifts are happening and you feel aligned, you feel powerful, health, wealth, all these things are in abundance, right? It's an abundance of all good things on that higher, let's say up in the sky vibration. I said, now imagine you're aligning yourself to one of these. If you were in a victim mentality and a very low mentality, let's imagine that's represented by the depths, the deep, deep, dark depths of the ocean. And you're under there and you're with like the sharks and the sea creatures that no one's ever seen before and the big, huge whales that'll eat you, whatever it is, right? You're down there and you're down there saying, I really want to see birds. I want to see the top of the rainbow. I want to see clouds. But you're in a very separate vibration than where the clouds exist, right? So you want an opportunity. You want your purpose. You want to meet the right people. You want this. Well, you have to get yourself up to that higher vibration. And that means literally pulling yourself out from under the ocean where you're in that deep, dark, victim mentality. And even on land where you're just kind of like average, I'm doing good, I'm all good. And get yourself to where you're really soaring. And when you vibrationally are a match to the sky, if you will, then you're going to find yourself seeing everything that naturally occurs in the sky. So when you're in a high vibe, you're going to be aligned to the things that exist in high vibration, an abundance of good things, purpose, fulfillment. All of those things exist in a high vibration. So our job is to get ourselves there. And when you talk about self-esteem, and you, Melissa, you introduced a more spiritual angle, there is a spiritual self. When I talk about self-esteem, I tend to be talking about the true self, which is a divine self, which is the self within this body that we see. And so when we talk about tapping into the true self, this is when the language that you use echoes that there's something powerful inside of you. The thoughts that you have echo that there's something powerful inside of you. And when you nurture those thoughts, that self-talk, the words, the feelings, the emotion, when you elevate that, when you have the clear pictures in your mind, you find yourself soaring from the depths of the ocean up into the sky. You have to be under the ocean and imagining the birds. And the more you're imagining the birds and enjoying the thought of the birds and enjoying the thought of the cool breeze on your skin and I'm elevating my hand now with this, this example. I'm wishing you guys could see me, right? I'm like, you're just going to climb steadily up. And that's the work, right? And that's the work. And so sometimes we start that work and then we stop. And we're still under the ocean, but we're like, I already did it for 2 weeks. Why isn't this working? Because it's a journey. It's a journey for every single day. You have to pick and choose and decide every single minute of every day that you're going to keep that climb going. And you're going to get there. You're going to get to the vibe that allows you to know truly and succinctly who you are and how you want to experience this planet.
And I go back to what you said earlier when you said you're narrowing your focus. And when you narrow it on being a victim and seeing only bad things, well, the opposite is true too. If you choose to narrow your focus on the blessings in your life and what's good around you, you tend to start seeing more and more of that. And again, it's because we're choosing what we focus on.
Yes, that power of choice. I literally tell people sometimes if I had to put NLP, the neuro linguistic programming, if I had to put it in one word, I would say options. I would say the power of NLP is it gives you more options, because I find that when we come to the end of the road of something, we're like, look, this is my life and this is not working and this is not working. I have no more options. I've tried everything. NLP is the opening of additional options. So instead of feeling like you're facing a wall and there's nothing else, all of a sudden you start seeing light popping up from this corner and this corner and this corner, and you have more options and things you can do internally within the power of your mind and yourself that are making real changes, measurable changes. That name I mentioned before, you guys, Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of the things I love about his work is that everything is backed with measurable data. So if you're a person who is really satisfied with just knowing and feeling the spiritual element, then you're good to go with a lot of what you're going to hear. If you're someone that needs some data, you want to see something like measured, recorded, I want to see some studies, Dr. Joe Dispenza is your guy, because he will measure the electromagnetic field around the outer body, which is kind of like the TV that Alyssa was talking about, tuning the TV with the antenna. And he will show you how our body really works as that antenna and really will bring the signal to you closer and closer and clearer, depending on where you are vibrationally. So he bridges the world between spirituality and science, if you will, to make sure you get a little bit of extra oomph to know it's backing what it is that we kind of already intuitively know and guiding our way even more. So that sense of self is so important in that journey, so important in all of it, in the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling, what you're manifesting, the vibration that you're on, the energy around your body, what you're going to see in your life, how you relate to others, and of course, how you feel about yourself and your purpose in this world.
I love that. I could sit here and talk to you for like weeks on end about this.
Seriously, I'm like, how much more time? I have another 3 hours.
So I'm definitely going to have you come back on at some point and do another episode, because I think there's just so much to cover in this topic, but it's such an important topic. And I think people need to hear this so much. And I really want to thank you for everything that you're doing with this work. If there are people out there listening today who are ready to work on themselves and they're ready for that journey, what's the best way for them to work with you or follow you?
Oh, thank you for asking. And thank you for doing this work, because your voice out there allowing us to share like this is literally changing the world one person at a time. And I'm maybe way more than one at a time. And I'm so appreciative of you for that. For anyone who wants to work with me, I do some one-on-one coaching on a case-by-case basis. I generally do a lot of public speaking and guest speaking at different organizations. So I'm happy to come out and work with you at your organization. And something that's really globally available 24/7 is my online academy. So if you want to go jump into my free library, you're going to see that I have tons of resources there for free for you to just click on and look at and utilize at your own pace. And then I also have paid courses and classes also. All of this can be found on my website, The Self-Esteem Doctor. It is all spelled out, including the. So theselfesteemdoctor.com, and the same for Instagram and TikTok. It's The Self-Esteem Doctor. Please connect with me. I absolutely would love to hear from you and hear what you thought about the conversation Melissa and I just had. We kind of got deep kind of fast, and I'm like, I want more.
I'm going to have all of those links in the show notes for you guys too, so you don't have to try to go look. You can just click right on the show notes, click on the link that's there, and to go check that out. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing that you offer free resources for people. I love that. Thank you so much for offering that.
Of course, no problem. No problem. I just want people to have this information. It's here for us. We are teachers, so we know we don't want to leave the classroom with the info in us. We want you to have it. So
exactly right.
We relate with that. Thank you so much. Ah, this is so good.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. Of course, we could not do this if you were not listening and following us. And we are so incredibly thankful and blessed to be here and doing this today. For all of you, if you would like to follow me on social media, I have many links there. I do free readings on TikTok and Facebook. Also, I have a Patreon group where you can see this recording of our interview, and you'll see what a beautiful soul that Dr. Simone Alicia is. And you can also follow us. We go live there each week, and I do a reading for each person that shows up on the live. You can join for free for a 7-day trial if you would like to just check it out and see if it vibes with you. If it does, great. If not, no big deal. There's no obligation to stay. As always, I hope you guys have an amazing week. I am sending you so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.